there's people groups where he says they will live and they will die. And so even though those they will live, literally their bodies die, there's something after this in which they will continue to live. And then there's this death that comes that after that they will not continue to live. All right, everybody, welcome back to Bible 365, or welcome here for the first time. You might be seeing this for the first time. I am your host, Kathy Carter, and I am reading through the Bible in 365 days. So that's why the name is Bible 365. I'm reading it every single day, and then I come here and I share my thoughts. I share of what I think happened, how that fits into the story, how that fits into my life, like what all of that means, why it matters, how that fits into my relationship with God, right? So all of those things. And I'm using what's called the chronological Bible reading plan. So it means I'm reading through it historically from start to finish. I'm not just opening it up and reading it like from beginning to end. That is great if you have done that, but it's a little more confusing trying to fit the pieces in the right way, because that's actually not the way the Bible is set up. It's not set up historically. So I'm reading it in historical order. My reading plan is with a company called oneyearbibleonline.com. And you would go on there, download chronological reading plans. So they have a whole bunch, but look for their chronological printable reading program. And you can just print that up and read it along with your own Bible, or you can grab one of their Bibles, either way. So today we are on day 238. So again, if you're watching this for the first time and you get like 5 minutes in and you enjoy it and you appreciate it and you want to go back, all the way back in Genesis. So you just have to subscribe to the channel. And then you can go all the way back and start from day one, which I strongly encourage because it builds such a strong foundation to see where we are now. Because where we are now is like right in the thick of it. So let me get this out of the way first. It's day 238. It is August 25th on your calendar. And we are reading Ezekiel 26:15 through 28, 26:15 through chapter 28, 2 Kings 25, 3 through 7, and then Jeremiah 52, 6 through 11, and 39, 2 through 10. It seems like a really big reading, but that very end of the reading is actually all the same thing. It's just in different books. So again, chronological order, right? So we get a lot of the same story. All right. So here's my history piece. You guys got 2 minutes if you want to fast forward. We are in the nation of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is still a tiny little nation that is left in Israel. The Lord has passed this down to the Israelites for generation after generation after generation for the past couple thousand years. About 1,000 years before Moses established this land, Joshua, but Moses established this land in the land of Canaan, the nation of Israel, which is current day Israel. There were 2 kingdoms, the northern kingdom, which is Israel, the southern kingdom, which is Judah. The Assyrians, about 150 years ago, took away the nation of Israel, and they essentially enslaved most of them, left a few of them there. Half of them sort of came down into the nation of Judah, like Manasseh and Ephraim came down into the nation of Judah because Judah was following the Lord, but Israel was not following the Lord. Judah is left. They are also not following the Lord. The king that is on the throne, that has been consistently on the throne, is a descendant of David. And that was one of the promises that God made several hundred years ago, that it was going to be the descendant of David always on the throne when they started the nation of the kings. And so that is currently the king that's on the throne. His name is Zedekiah, but Zedekiah is not following the Lord. And so he has been promised by a couple of prophets that the entire nation is going to be swept away. Many, many, many thousands and millions are going to die, and there's going to be a remnant that's going to be left, and then the Lord is going to bring them back, and he's going to build them up again and grow them, and they are going to follow the Lord, and all is going to be wonderful with the world. The 2 prophets that we are currently in are Jeremiah and Ezekiel, and we're in like the 580s. Jeremiah is living in the nation of Jerusalem, and so he has direct relationship with King Zedekiah. Ezekiel is living in Babylon, and he's been taken away with a lot of the other exiles. And so we find ourselves today in Ezekiel. And so Ezekiel is the one who's going to be speaking. I don't think, we have a little bit of Jeremiah, but not too much. It's mostly Ezekiel today. And so we're going to see what Ezekiel has to say to the nation. I always like to check my mic. It makes me so nervous because it goes off way too often. Okay, so spoiler alert, yesterday I finished And when I finished, they were talking, God was giving Ezekiel this prophecy that the nation of Tyre is going to be destroyed. And you just read this stuff over and over and over again, and sometimes you just forget things. Quite often we forget things because there is so much information given, and it's such a big story that sometimes we forget. And that's the whole reason, by the way, why I want to keep reading it and reading it and reading it. Well, that's one of the reasons. I have a million reasons. But it's one of the reasons that we want to keep reading it over and over again, because we forget things. But it's also to go deeper and all other kinds of stuff. So the nation of Tyre, if I tell you geographically where it is, we're talking nation of Israel right now, and Israel was on the top, Judah was on the bottom. Jerusalem's sort of like in the nation of Judah, like right smack in the middle of what's current day Israel. And Tyre is above that. So right now, Tyre is in Lebanon. I actually was in Tyre, which is now fascinating when I'm reading about it. And so I was in Tyre because I was in Lebanon, and it's beautiful. Like, it's just a beautiful area. It's right on the water. So it's a great city, a great town. And, but they are going to be destroyed. And so what we heard yesterday is God was like, I'm punishing you. And one of the reasons was sort of like, well, you said aha to Israel when Israel was getting taken over, and so I'm going to destroy you. Going a little bit deeper, and it's a little bit, we find out in a couple of chapters, but going a little bit deeper, Tyre used to be one of the 12 tribes of Israel. And so, yes, at this time, it no longer consists of the 12 tribes of Israel. However, there are Israelites that live there. Originally, Israelites lived there. They are supposed to be in that nation. That's the area that God gave them, and they are supposed to be there, and they're supposed to be thriving there. And what happened is like everything else, they built themselves up, right? They stopped following the Lord, and they weren't even in the land anymore. Like now, a whole bunch of other people wound up taking them over. They wound up converting to all these other things. And so it wasn't even really Israelite held territory anymore. So Tyre is this, at this time in the 580s, Tyre is this amazing seaport, right? And it should have been the nation of Asher, one of the 12 tribes. It should have been the tribe of Asher. It was originally, during Joshua's time, the tribe of Asher. So now, at this point, it is this amazing seaport. And in this seaport, all of these people come to live there because it's like people come and go, they trade, they do all these things. Like, so it's a glorious place to live. Like, it's just one of like the top areas to live in. Like, I'm thinking now like San Diego, right? Like, it's one of the areas you want to be in, right? It's on the water. There's a lot of business coming in and out. And so it's a place where a lot of people wanted to be. But originally the nation of Israel, they're no longer following the God of Israel. So it says, moving down into Ezekiel 26:15, this is what the Lord says to Tyre. Will not the coastlands tremble at the sound of your fall? When the wounded groan and the slaughter takes place in you, then all the princes of the coast will step down from their thrones and lay aside their robes and take off their embroidered garments. Why would anyone care about this tiny little nation of Tyre? Well, because it was actually a huge port city. So people came and went from all over. It was like so much money coming in and out, so much trade, right? It was this. So when it falls, which God is saying it's going to fall, when it falls, a whole bunch of people are going to mourn because they did business there, right? A lot of people live there. It seems like a lot of different nations came in because it was a seaport. People would come in and they would live there, right? They would start serving there and living there. And again, other places would trade there. So it became this like hot place to live. So it says, they're going to take a lament. So like all these towns are going to be like, how did this happen? How you are destroyed, city of renown, people of men, you were a power on the seas. So they owned all this territory on the sea. They would have all these ships going in and out from Tarshish. They would have all these areas. And so it says, this is what the sovereign Lord says in verse 19. When I make you a desolate city, like cities no longer inhabited, and when I bring the ocean depths over you and its vast waters cover you, then I will bring you down with those who go down to the pit, to the people of long ago. I will make you dwell in the earth as in ancient ruins with those who go down to the pit, and you will not return or take your place in the land of the living. I will bring you to a horrible end, and you will be no more. You will be looked for, sought, but you will never be found again. I want to take up 2 points here. One is the line where it says, I will bring the ocean depths over you and the vast waters cover you. So I always tell you guys, I look up historical information, and I don't know if anyone looks up this. Like, I live in the United States. I don't know all of this, like geography and history and everything. Well, I look up the nation of Tyre. Did they really get taken over? Was that area destroyed? There is an ancient underground city. So the first thing I look up, it says images of under the sea. They have a city that is currently under the sea, to the point where people actually kept comparing it to the lost city of Atlantis. So that maybe like some of those stories of the lost city of Atlantis, like this is the lost city of Atlantis, which, by the way, were, maybe stories were based off of that, right? But obviously we're going to say that that was not the lost city of Atlantis, because we're going to say that God is the one who put vast oceans over top of the city. So I just find it fascinating that even like, I feel like history and geography and all of this stuff just proves these things that we're saying, because these things were said and prophesied before they happened, and before, I think, he died, and it happened after he died. So one of the things that was noted is it was likely in like this. So there was some destruction in like the 500s, but there was a huge takeover in the 300s, like 386 or something like that. And that's probably when this city was buried under the water, was at that point, like when the waters came up and took over. So I find that to be really fascinating, that he uses those specific words, that the ocean is going to cover you, and the ocean covers parts of Tyre. So the second thing I wanted to point out in here was his idea of bringing them down. So where he's taking them to. So they were so bad in his eyes, and they had done so much horrible things in his eyes, that he was taking them down to this pit, which he's mentioned a few times, not a lot, but he's mentioned a few times. He's going to bring you down to those who go down into the pit, and he's going to dwell in the earth below, in the ancient ruins. And so he had said something like pieces of Eden were down in this pit. He had mentioned this a few days back. So there's this, I don't know if it's poetic or if it's literal, right? I always want to just be sure, because I'm just not sure if it is. But it seems like there's this place that is sort of like under earth. I don't know what you would call it, but you're going to go down there and you're not going to come back from that again, right? There are people that they say will live, right? There's people groups where he says they will live and they will die. And so even though those they will live, literally their bodies die, there's something after this in which they will continue to live. And then there's this death that comes, that after that they will not continue to live. And so it seems like maybe this is one of those things in which that it looks like, right? That maybe they're going underneath, and so they're living, their death is under there, to be seen or heard of no more, right? And it says, I will bring you to a horrible end. So it's going to be terrible, and then you will be no more. And so I'm, again, visually not completely sure, but what that looks like is there's no joy there. There's certainly no peace there, right? And it's a horrible end. All right, moving on to Ezekiel 27. He's saying to take up a lament for Tyre, and basically explaining what Tyre is. So the word of the Lord came, Son of man, take up a lament concerning Tyre. So this is what he says. You say, Tyre, I am beautiful. So you talk so wonderfully about yourself. You were on the sea. You were this amazing seaport, right? People came in and out. It says all the ships of the sea and their sailors came to trade for your wares. Men of all over came to serve you. So like they would come in and they would see it and they would just want to serve in the kingdom. It would be a great place to work and to live. Tarshish, Greece, Tubal, Meshech, men of Beth Togarmah, Aram, Judah, Israel, Damascus, Dedan, Arabia, Sheba, they all traded with you. Everybody came in and did business or traded or, bought your wares, right? There was all of this area in which they all came, this tiny little nation, and they all came and traded with you. And then in verse 25, it said, the ships of Tarshish serve as carriers for your ware. You are filled with heavy cargo. So they kind of have everything, right? And then it says, your oarsmen take you out to the high seas, but the east wind will break you to pieces. So there's going to be death in the water. The ocean is going to come up and it's going to kill the people. It's going to take out all the wares, right? The shorelands will quake. Everyone is going to cry. People are going to mourn. So everyone's going to be devastated because this area is being destroyed because of the way it's being used, right? Everyone around is scared now because of you. So here we go again where he says like they're going to be a byword. He doesn't say that here, but like the nations are all in terror because of what happened to you. Again, because they use your area and then they're saying, oh my gosh, all this is happening. Now, do they attribute it to God? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like they do, but God is the one saying that he's going to do these things. And it says, once again, you have come to a horrible end and it will be no more. And then the word of the Lord says, Son of man, say to the ruler of Tyre. So this is for the leader. In the pride of your heart, you say that I am God. So like the nation of Tyre says, I'm so beautiful. The leader of Tyre says, I am a God. I sit on this throne. Look at all of these amazing things around me, right? And then it says, are you wiser than Daniel? Is no secret hidden from you? By your wisdom and understanding, you have gained wealth for yourself. So he's like, I'm so amazing. Like, it's just everything about this king. He thinks he's the be all end all. I want to make a quick note, which I have made a note on before. One of the notes in my Bible says that Daniel could be Daniel. And so this is the second time it said it. Like this one time it was noted where it was Noah, Daniel, and Job. And once again, it was talking like about the wisdom of these people and the righteousness of these people. And so they had mentioned them a few times. And then another time they're mentioning it here, like, are you wiser than Daniel? My note says Daniel, which was a famous story back around that same time, like in the ancient Israel time. And so they say it could be that Daniel, because this Daniel is currently living in Babylon. And they're like, do they already have information on Daniel being so wise and being so amazing? Which, by the way, I think that it is definitely possible. Or is it more likely that it's this person, Daniel? And I just want to note that Daniel was a follower of Baal. And so I take a little bit of issue because if it's this person, why would they say this person was so wise if the God he was following was Baal? And so he just tells the story about his son and all of these things that he did. But what he did is he asked for help from Baal. He didn't ask for help from the Lord. He asked for help from Baal. So I'm going to say that it probably wasn't this person. It was probably the Daniel that's in scripture, probably the one that we know. And that's the one they're talking about. So again, is it hard to understand that they have information on what's happening to Daniel? You know, it's one of those things that you have to sort of contextually figure out what you think is or is not true. But I just wanted to throw it out there. All right, so it says, therefore, because you thought you were so amazing and so proud, this is what God says. I'm going to bring foreigners against you. You're going to die a violent death in the heart of the seas, and you will die the death of the uncircumcised. So remember, this is the dun, 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 big reminder. Tyre is supposed to be, or originally was, the people of Israel. So obviously Israel still lives there, right? Israelites still live there. And they're going to die a death just like the uncircumcised that do not have the Lord. Then it says, the word of the Lord came to me, son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say, you were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom. Like this area and these people were created by God. And he goes even all the way back to Eden. So he's a descendant of originally Eden, which, again, I'm going to say everybody is, but he's going all the way back to there. He's like, I gave you everything. And then you turned your back on me, and I had to take you out of that land. I had to take you out of the area. And it says, your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom. You did this. We have the power to be corrupt by turning away from the Lord. And he says, so I threw you to the earth. And then it says, once again, you have come to a horrible end and will be no more. So this is that image that he keeps giving them. You're going to be no more. There's going to be nothing left of you. You're not going to have life after death. The word of the Lord came to me in Ezekiel 28:20. Son of man, set your face against Sidon. Sidon was Tyre and Sidon were kind of like coinciding. They weren't the same, but they were very similar, really close, right next to each other. And he says, I'm against you, and among you I will display my glory. You will know that I'm the Lord when I inflict punishment on you. So you're going to know that who I am when I inflict punishment on you. No longer will the people of Israel have malicious neighbors who are painful briars and sharp thorns. then they will know that I am the sovereign Lord, because he's going to take out anybody that could hurt Israel. And then there's some restoration near the end. We come to this place where it says, this is where the sovereign Lord says, when I gather the people of Israel from the nations where they've been scattered, I'm going to be proved holy through them. They're going to live in their own land. They're going to live there in safety. They will live in safety when I inflict punishment on their neighbors. So he's going to bring them back. Neighbors are going to be punished if they hurt them, right? This is the same story that he keeps giving us, right? I'm eventually going to bring Israel back. I'm going to protect them. I'm going to keep them safe. These next three sections, 2 Kings 25, Jeremiah 52, and Jeremiah 39, all really encompass the same story. So this is happening on the 11th year of Zedekiah. So Zedekiah has been king 11 years, which means Babylon has been in charge for 11 years, because Zedekiah was made king by Nebuchadnezzar. So on the 11th year, in the 4th month, on the 9th day, the famine in the city had become really great. So remember, they were under siege, right? So Babylon was surrounding the area and they were under siege. And so at one point, it was just too much. They were all starving, right? They couldn't get out because Babylon was right out there. They couldn't do anything. They were running out of food in the land. And this was God's punishment on them. So they were running out of food in the land. And so what they did is they decided they were going to run. Now, if you remember, the prophecy was given that they were supposed to surrender. But what we see is instead they choose to run. And so they broke through this wall and they all started running away, but they got caught. So the nation of Babylon caught them, took King Zedekiah, and brought King Zedekiah to meet Nebuchadnezzar face to face, right? So he met him face to face, which again was one of the prophecies that was spoken. And so when he met him face to face, the punishment for him is he took out all of Zedekiah's kids, and then he gouged his eyes out. And so he took out his sight, and then he put him in jail, and he stayed in jail for the rest of his life. And he wound up dying over there. So he says, the Babylonians then set fire to the royal palace, and the houses of the people broke down the walls of Jerusalem. Nebuzaradan, commander of the imperial guard, carried into exile to Babylon all the people who remained in the city. So a lot of the nobles were taken out, and then everybody but the poor people, the poorest of the people, were taken into exile into Babylon. The poorest of people were allowed to stay, and then Nebuchadnezzar gave them vineyards and some land in order to be able to farm. That's how we end today. So Jerusalem was finally overtaken. King Zedekiah didn't surrender, and so he was taken away and unfortunately punished for that. But some people are still left in the nation of Jerusalem. And so I want you guys to like, share, and subscribe if this has been a blessing to you. And as always, keep reading. See you guys next time.